Right, so these are the figures for that ward. I calculated it a little bit lower, 150 being 5% of the electorate, but that's just Lepton Village because it's got 3,000 people. But so the total ward residents for this jurisdiction in this electorate and in this council jurisdiction is 13,440. 5% of that is only about 600 odd people, like 670, right? Which it's more than 150, which I thought, but it's still not that. You don't need to get 1,000 signatures. Only about 4,000 people, 4,017 people, right, bother voting when it's an election, right? It looks like there's another Lib Dem. I don't know who won that one recently. I know now because I can see it. They won by a great deal. Got 46% of the votes. So, whenever you ask these people over anything important, these 13,500 people in this jurisdiction, right? Only 4,117 of them bother voting, and actually, but these councillors are only in power. The councillors are only charged with the power of the people, the position to make these building and planning decisions, and all the rest of the council as well in their own respective areas generally, right? This is all together. Not each councillor. There's only 4,000 people turning out to have a say, right? Which doesn't mean that the rest of the people support what they're doing or just don't care, like think, oh, just do what you want to us. I severely doubt that the other, 10,000 people or whatever, or 9,000 people just think, oh, council can do what the hell they want. No. Have you ever thought that those people might be opposed to the council? Might be the people who are always complaining about the council, might not like the council, right? It's not a matter of just, carefree or careless, right? As for supporting the council, only 4,000 people bother to have a say to support the council. And out of those 4,000, half of the council that's been elected has got about 1,906 votes. So the councillor in power hasn't even got 2,000 of the local jurisdiction behind them. And the other councillors, who are usually in opposition to each other on a lot of things. So now this is where it gets interesting, right? Because, hold on a second. So look, right, here, 13,440 electorate, but only 4,000 turn out to vote. So if you ever went, this is the thing, right? This is what the government itself, this is what His Majesty's government and all of the main political parties like Keir Starmer, and Sunak and all of the councillors and even the executives on Kirklees Council, all the people employed by the council, the highways executives, all the architects they employ and consult, all these people and all the people who own land and buy land and who have got enough money to just throw pound notes at developments and say, I want to build a, McDonald's, or I want to build a sports centre, or I'll do whatever I want because I've got money. It's actually not, it doesn't matter how much money they've got in a wallet. If you've got £1 million or £1 billion in life, in the realm of England, in voting, it's meant to be what the people want, not by how much money that anyone's got, even the council. It's meant to be by what the people want or don't want, right? It's votes are pound notes when it comes to decisions, right? And ticks in boxes. And you don't when you're making ticks in boxes, you don't even need to have any you don't need to have any particular points either. And that's what the council don't want you to know, that in law, in the Petition of Right in 1620s and the rest of the legal process that's formed, it's by lawful judgment of the peers, which is due process, the rightful legal process, so everything can get heard and looked at, and it's a fair process and everyone's been asked or whatever, or by the rule of law. So you don't need any reason why you object to a court being built, or any reason why you object to a housing estate. None. You don't need a reason. You just say, I like it as it is, I don't want it, right? It's like, it's a tick in a box. If you've got a strong case, then you can just yourself, then you're getting, evidence and so forth. But, so, 672 is 5% of the entire electorate. Now, the thing is that you would be insane to even need to ever get more than 5,000 signatures from a local area, because that amount of people never even bother voting for anything that happens anyway, right? Even when things do get decided by the council. So any petitioning that concerns a very small local area and a thing particular to a local area, like one building plot, really, building developments, because the building development really impacts the local people, the traffic, the local people who live there when they look at it, so it's not too important to anyone else unless they call it, right? And when you haven't even built any houses yet and no one's going to move into them, who do they affect? So when it's particular to a local area, it's actually quite a particular number of people that it affects. Now, you would really, if you ever got 4,000 signatures on something that was concerning a small local area, even a building and planning development, that would blow away the entire council, because they never even get jurisdiction in that area. They've never even seen over 4,000 votes to get a jurisdiction in that area, right? And I know people who have done loads and loads and loads of petitions, and apparently council just ignore it and ignore it and ignore it, right? Like, 2,000 that Heather's got, right, in the past that, John Taylor just, buffed off or ignored. Now, this 5% number for this Almondbury ward is 672, right? 672. But that number is a great number, because in the legislation, in the laws, that number really is enough to have its so large figure, 5% of the local people, that if you got that number, you're entitled to everyone's entitled to be compelled to have a say on the matter. It's compelled the rest of the area. If you got 672, it would compel really the rest of the area. It's important enough for the rest of the area to have a say, even if it's a small local area, because if you concentrated it all on this area, right? That's not even just to oppose the planning. That's great. It's so great, that number of the local jurisdiction. It commands that everyone actually be asked about the matter, right? Now, the thing is, when they was trying to build in Lepton, right, not the one that the scammed us out behind us and brushed under the carpet and didn't put the proper notices up, what actually happened is when they built here, all the attention was diverted into the centre of the village, because there was another development going on around the same time, planning permission. And what Bernard McGuinn did is he played the hero card. Oh, here I come to save the day, Bernard McGuinn, dun, 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 with my town shirt on, So Bernard McGuinn, no offence to anyone else who wears a town shirt, by the way, this is specific to Bernard McGuinn. So McGuinn champions the village, right? Yes, we will object to this. Meanwhile, knowing that this objection up here, that actually some people objected to, but they didn't put proper notices out, affects a local riding school as well, right? That one got passed. And it was just out of his jurisdiction, but he knew that was going through, and he knew that was going to provide houses. So what he did is, for his own PR and to look good for the public, to support him, he helped and championed to oppose the other development. And they got about 800 signatures, right? But that 800 signatures clearly was a large number and enough to... 800 is more than enough to block a planning application, because it's well over 5% of the electorate, and this is the main councillors' corporate. This is the main sort of illusion this is the main con they've got us under, right? They really, 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 really don't value any complaints or signatures unless they're getting elected. Like these numbers here, when they're getting elected, they really, really value them because that gets them into power. But when it comes to objecting things, it's almost like a penny's worth, not even a penny's worth quarter of a penny or less. It's like your complaint or opinion or objection is, it's not even worth, one. It's worth like 0.3, right? And a developer who chucks a development on the table, he's just one person, but that's valid more than what the people in the area think, right? This 672 figure, 5% of a given jurisdiction, when it's only something that no one else really, who's going to be bothered about, you're not going to get someone interested in it, in Murfield in Kirklees, or in Cleckheaton in Kirklees, or, in Linley in Kirklees, because they've got more, they're not interested. It's not pertain to their area, right? So what Bernard McGuinn did, though, is he easily exceeded this 5% figure, but that was a feat in itself, because it's so great that you can have a ward little poll referendum when it comes to developments and things with that figure, because it's a great figure. The thing is, you shouldn't even need 600 or 800 in an area like this, because that figure is 5%, and that is so great, right, that it can command. It's so great, that figure, 5%. It's not a messing around figure, that it can compel to force everyone else into having an opinion on it, right? Or to make their opinion, for the council to go collect the opinions on it, right? But not just, asking, not just, putting a couple of Facebook group posts up and put it on the website. We're talking about, going out of their way. And that's what a local referendum is. They all get something through the letterbox, and they're all given notice. When it's just on a Facebook group or on a poll at the end of the road, or the council put on the website, there's this been put in, put your objections in, that's not a local referendum on it. That's the council putting a couple of notices out. But, I don't think that they're anywhere near adequate. It's definitely not actually, posting it through the letterbox and saying mark on the card, turn up to vote or send it in or whatever, postal vote. That 600, the 672 figure is big enough to compel everyone to get a paper thing pushed through. To say have your say, not just mentioning it on the council website that no one even visits, But the thing is, because that figure is so great, and they only get the complete and total turnout for all of the political parties to even get someone in power to make decisions is only 4,000, right? In total. 4,117 out of all those 13,000 people. So if you get 672, it's at least enough to really should make the council go, and ask us, at least, the 13,000, even if only 4,000 of them are going to have a say in it, right? But the votes of that, will be, dictate, for or against. But what concerns me is that when you are just objecting and putting objections in or, petitioning without even achieving that 5%, the 672. So what about if you collect 150 signatures or 200 or 300 or 400 or just, well, that is getting a large number of people to object when you don't even need a reason. They just don't want it. But not enough to compel to ask everyone. But the thing is, how many people is it going to build a house for? Even if you're going to provide 100 houses for 100 people, that's only 100 souls, 100 persons, right? And the land developer is only one person with an opinion. And if he makes $1 million or $2 million or £3 million out of it, we haven't made £1 million out of it. We haven't made anything out of it. He's made money, gone off with the money, right? Even if he builds 100 houses, right? That's only 100 persons who would want to live there, but they haven't even built the houses yet. They don't know whether or not they're going to like them. And, from what they've been building around by us, they've got, you can't even go you can't even go into the houses. They've got electric gates on the entrance to the street. I mean, who do they think we are? And then the other ones that are being built in the countryside on the edge of a beautiful view, none of them can see the view because they all built them like some weird, New York central layout where it's morbid, depressing. You can't even see the countryside or between the houses. It's what they're building is absolutely disgusting. It's, no architect with any decency could, it's a disgrace. And the fact that they're doing it for budget, I can make money out of this, it's only going to cost us, whatever, 700,000 to build these houses, and we can sell them for 10 million or whatever. It's all, how much money can I make, and whatever. At the end of the day, you provide houses to even 20 people, you've made an absolute massacre of an area for, however many hundred people, or even, 500, 1,000, thousands of people. And they added traffic and noise as well. Now, if you collect 150 signatures against something, and you don't need a reason, you don't have to count the squirrels or, get an air pollution monitor or anything like that. You don't need anything other than the fact that they don't want it, right? 150 signatures handed in, or 150 complaints to a councillor is plenty more than one developer who happens to have £1 million in his pocket. Or even if there's 100 people going to live in those houses, they've been outvoted because there's 150 people in the village who don't want them to move there, right? This is how it should work. And all the councils, reams and reams, or, the highways executive and the building planning guy, you've got to have, a proper excuse or reason or a good argument. Rubbish. It clearly states in the law of judicial function that you can argue something on point of law or argument or on the opinion of the peers of whether they agree. You don't need a reason. You can do it on points like, I'm putting an argument over how many squirrels are going to be affected or whatever, but you don't have to. You don't have to. And that's the big con of the council. And the figures, they're actually cheating us out with the figures. If you get 150 signatures That should easily block planning without no reason, no scientific argument, no environmental argument, no aesthetics argument, no argument. You don't need an argument. That is 150 people. If three people submit an objection, 3 people with a lawyer or an environmental degree and loads of a strong legal case by complaint to the council, 3 people, and there's going to be 10 or 20 or 100 people moving into houses, right? But 3 people have a very compelling argument over, how many squirrels it's going to affect, or the woodlands and the aesthetics and everything else of the area and the traffic. If 3 people have a very compelling case, then the strength of the case could outweigh those people moving into the area, right? But if on the peers, the judgment of the peers, not on legal point of law, on judgment of the peers, if 150 people don't want 100 people to move into the area, they've outnumbered them already. It doesn't matter how much money the development's got in his wallet, whether it's Lord Pumpernickel, whether it's King Charles, whether it's the Rumpole of the Bailey, or it doesn't matter who it is. You have outweighed them by the jury votes of the local electorate. And the people who the houses are built for don't even have a vote because they don't even know they exist yet, because they haven't built them. We don't even know who it might be or would be or could be, right? We've been the building and planning industry, sector, contractors, Balfour Beat Me, Ross, all their staff, their training, their government handshakes with Keir Starmer, all that is, they're conning us. It's like we've got a £50 note, right, when we object to things, and they're saying that it's only a fiver, or it's not even worth 2p. They're devaluing it, right? They say that it's worth nothing, like 150 complaints or objections is worth nothing. Unless you get this 672, Alberta McGuinn, the champion of the village. Come on, everyone in the village. 672 is enough to, it's enough to, and he got 800 to object to the housing. That's not just like, there's enough, we've got enough here to win the objection. No, you've got enough there not to win the objection. 150 would be enough to win the objection. 150 would be enough. Maybe 100 would be enough to win the objection. They're being devalued, these objections. 800 was in gross excess of 5%, and it should have compelled the council to put a notice for everyone's door and tell them to cast a vote on it. Right? That's what it should be. It's taking the mick. If you get over 5%, that's not just enough to win, a decision in your favour. That's enough to make them ask everyone else. And you shouldn't have to get that 5%. The 5% is, an objection against planning shouldn't need the same number or more than what you need to get a referendum. Because, am I doing the referendum or not? I'm entitled to a referendum because it's on the national insurance and council tax proviso. If I go and I get 4,000 signatures, which is more than the complete totality of councillors getting votes, if I spend my own money and don't claim the tax back, if I go around this area and get 4,000 signatures door to door, why am I doing that? Why am I myself? There's 3 people sat in that polling station and 3 people in the other one volunteering to collect votes. I'm not collecting 4,000 signatures. I'm not walking round door to door round this area getting more signatures when they turn out to vote. And I'm paying for it. I'm doing the walking and the pen. When only 672, 5%, I should have the right on 672 to make the council ask them themselves, and they can pay for it. And I don't mean Alison Munro putting a post on a local Facebook group saying, oh, there's an objection, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about, some Chinese whispers or, a sign at the end of the road that was never there. Walk past there every day. Oh, we're building some houses. Oh, go past the end of the road every day. It's a dead end. Why would I go up there? Oh, yes, but I won't mind knowing if they're building houses on there. It's going to bring traffic. Why isn't there a sign there? And some situations might need an extra sign. Yes, like, that situation, We're being gypped off by these councillors, by these Tory and Labour groomed councillors in their working men's club political parties. They're con artists, like in the magistrates' courts. Con. And then when you get these executives and highways executives in a shirt and tie and a suit in the council, permanent position, no one votes for him, permanent. Don't get to vote for who's the chief executive of the council or the highways executive. No, that's privileged position, permanent on the contract, right? Oh, can we get the councillors to all vote on this or that? We've got big plans, big phases, big stages for this area. Well, what happens if they don't want it there? What happens if the 13,000 electorate who live there, 10,000 of them can't stand this council and don't turn out to vote, and of the 4,000 who do turn out, none of them voted for Labour or Tory. They voted Lib Dem. This is it. And out of that, I'm not collecting 4,000 signatures when 5%, when 672 compels a council to post a poll card through every door in Lepton, Armonbury, Fenny Bridge to ask them and get them to send it back in or turn up at the local school with it, right? And that's not having to formulate. We don't have to formulate any reasoning or, environmental. No, we don't need to write anything except a tick in a box in favour or against, like in the council chamber. Don't need any reason at all other than we don't want them to build on that land. We don't want it sold. No other reason, right? None. And, under that number, you're still getting a lot of people objecting. 100, 200, 300 signatures, it should be enough to show that out of the, people don't want it. Because they've got a right to say that they do want it. I mean, how many people say that they even do? I have these 4,000 people in the village, and how many of those 4,000 people are even going to live in those houses? None. How many people in that village, right, how about polling the council, polling the whole area, how many people are going to buy a house out of those builds or who can afford it? None. I severely doubt anyone from this ward would even afford those houses or move into them. So what right does anyone who doesn't even live in this area or, come from this area have to even, when they're buying the houses and then they're getting a foot in the door in the electoral system? If people are happy with the area as it is. There are plenty of areas where people aren't objecting to building and where people, you don't object to it. That's the thing. But as for that 672, local referendums are not being held when they exist and you've got rights to them. And the reason is that we know from Meltham and we know from, like Marsden and places like that, the general consensus is that people don't really like these new housing builds and they aren't keen on them and they don't really want them. And if that ain't controlling the population itself, there's a way of controlling the population by, just not building houses, right? And then you can't have more houses, This is the thing, old people shouldn't be forced into old people's homes because, you know, they should be with their families. You know, it was there's a bad strategy behind that. You know, people, you know, making the grandparents move, pushing them out into old people's homes. You know, there's a lack of care in that. You know, we need to. That Local Authorities Act, it actually, all the rules and regulations can be overridden by the enactment, and you know that the enactment it is, because it is the enactment that overrides the regulations, and this is why it says on the local council websites or even on the petition sites that, you know, you can actually sign if you've got an interest in the area or use the facilities. You don't have to live there, and also, you know, these time limits for submitting complaints. There aren't any time limits really. They've got a time limit because they've got to have some sort of general structure to work to, some sort of general time frame, you know, so that they can do it. But it's not like, you know, you turn up at the, off license, you know, as he's closing, you know, not selling you a bottle of pop when he's just about to lock the door or whatever, depending on whether he'll let you or not. It acts legally. There is no deadline. It doesn't exist. There is no deadline. It does not exist. They've got a working deadline because they've got to work. But the thing is, with a petition, you can override the council chamber and any decision that has been made or could be made or is to be made, even if they've actually started building houses, really. I know it's kind of very, very late, but you can do it. Because at the end of the day, even if they built something and you want to get... Because otherwise, I've said this before, I know they've got these time periods and so forth, right? But with the town, well, they make decisions in the town centre all the time, you know, like redevelopment of shops and stuff like that. But what happens when someone sells a shop? Or what happens when the shop goes bust and then another occupier comes in and they want to change the shop or they want to turn it into a different shop? It's always open for change and application, because they might want to change use for different building. You know, it's a complete time limits or a complete lying con with the council, because they're always changing the use of places in the town centre over and over and over and over. You know, now fair enough. You know, if you know you've got 100 people who've just moved into the area and they live in houses, it would be ridiculous to say petition to get rid of those houses because someone's bought them and they own them. But while they're still, if they haven't been sold, you know, you've still got a potential chance, you know, of overriding it and getting it demolished. And this is the thing. It's sort of, oh, what about the builder? What about all of he's just, you know, had to spend all this money on bricks and stuff? Well, you know, more the fool him. You've got these people throwing money around, like throwing pound notes around, throwing money around like they own the place. But once you start going to people and start getting opinion and votes, then the value of them is great, but they're being undervalued. And the fact that, you know, all these people don't turn out, you know, like over 10,000 people don't even turn out from the area. Well, you know, if they don't want to object, it doesn't mean they support it, though. That's the thing. In fact, if you start regarding as people who don't turn out to vote as the fact that, you know, they don't support what's being done, then you're looking at, you know, that is the opposition. You know, unfortunately, you know, if you added another thing on the polling card which says, you know, I don't want any of these councillors to get in, we don't want Tory, we don't want, Conservatives or whatever to be in the council, that would be interesting if you could have actually a vote on there to block certain parties, you know, to vote against. Then people might bother turning up to vote if they say, well, we don't want these people on the council. But, you know, so this, you know, you're actually looking at a silent majority, because actually out of 13,440 people, I mean, you've only just really got over that, you know, the 13,000, the 3,440 has only just really been exceeded, really. You mean you haven't even hacked into that over 10,000, you know? There's nearly out of 13,440, you've nearly got 10,000 who don't support the council, which isn't anything to be proud of, really, particularly when they're trying to do building and planning in the area and change it and stuff. They don't have the support of the people in the first place. So out of the 4,117 who turn up, and then in this particular area, half of those are Lib Dem now. The Tory and the Conservative and Labour people definitely don't have priority for those councillors, So no one should be expected to go out themselves to get 4,000 votes, because the council can only just pull in 4,000 votes when they use proper procedure. And to go yourself and get 672, 5%, would be to show that this is of great enough concern for the council to ask everyone. But even with 150 votes, on paper signed, or 150 complaints, even without even have to say a reason why, it really is enough for really to support the objection. Because what has the party that are wanting to build got in their favour, other than one person with a load of money? I mean, he hadn't even built the houses yet. But with this, the worst thing with this situation is it's the council that are wanting to sell the land for development. Yet, out of 13,440 people, only 4,000 support what this council do. So it's not a very strong figure for, the council doing anything, approving anything. Because they've only just got themselves approved. They're only just scraping by at the moment by getting themselves approved. If the turnout fell down to 3,440, that would be quite interesting and funny. In fact, I actually think that even if everyone was passionately political and everyone had a very, very strong opinion, if all 13,440 people turned out to vote, right, then still over this one matter of the housing, right, when you get your 672 votes, 5% was compelled to ask everyone. That's with a view that 13,440 people might have a strong opinion. But in an electorate when they don't even support the council, and you can't say that those people don't care and just absolutely disinterested. I think you as much to say that they I've actually opposed, they're getting sick of the council and they're not turning up to vote. They don't like anything the council does and they don't support the council at all whatsoever, right? So, when you're looking to get this 672 from a 13,440 electorate who don't bother to turn up to vote, right? You're looking at really a body of 4,000 people, right? Now, if you, so out of them, what's 5% of that is only 150, right? Out of the people who do care, either way, Labour, Tory, or Conservative, and it's maybe Labour who's pushing the housing, if you get, actually, hold on. So it's meant to be the Labour Party who are pushing the housing. Keir Starmer who's pushing all the powerhouses being built. Conservatives are meant to kind of like countryside and preserving the countryside, at least in our area. 46%. 1,906 got someone into power, into position. Patricia Collin, 832 votes. 832 votes. So the Labour Party, who are meant to be the ones who are powering the powerhouses, have only got if anyone in the area was interested in building and providing more houses, or what Starmer wants to do, it's only 882 people, right? And I can guarantee you, ironically, right? How many of those 882 people are even going to buy any of those houses if they got built at Fenny Bridge? None of them, because no one can afford them. Who are they building them for? They're not building them for Labour voters. They're not. I really don't know what Starmer's playing at. 882. So, I don't think that the council are getting 882 people who say sell that land. If they got 882 people writing in and say yeah, sell the land, get some houses banged on it, fair enough. But I don't think they are. And it's those opposed. You only really need about 100. I think you only need about 150, 200 people to sign a petition. Or even complain. Or you could even have, these like really, really strong objections, these like powerful objections where you get an environmentalist or an architect or someone to write you a case of objection with lots and lots of facts and details that is going to be judged on the point of law and all these objection points. That is really when you only get 3 people or one person strongly objected who puts a very, very strong case because he's actually using the points and using the law to object against the one person. It's that case is the applicant, right? The applicant, the person with all the dosh, the money, who, I just want to, build some houses and make a lot of cash out of it, right? Make £1 million out of it or £5 million out of it for himself. That is one person bringing a case, right? Now, if one other person in the area, right, writes a compelling case with all these clauses and, what percentage of the traffic is going to increase and the noise and, what is going to affect the environmental issues and, what even the design of the house is going to impact the area, everything going to be fitting with the area. Is it going to be an amazing countryside view on the edge of a ridge? What they build a complete stupidest idea ever of a street where you can't even see anything. And it's more depressing than Brookside Close, right? When you could have built, the same number of houses spread out over a larger area, right? Why build? So, there's nothing more insulting than getting a perfectly nice horse riding street, with a horse riding school, with a view over the ridge that everyone in the village goes walking on a regular basis, walking their dogs, and building New York City on the edge of it. Well, like, Pencil Case Grove, when you can't even see the countryside from each of the respective individual houses. It's all for profit. I've got a plot of land. There's a number, a figure. If I squash these houses in, which I'm not going to live in myself, and someone buys them, I can make £10 million out of it. Me, right? Well, how's that going to affect everyone walking the dogs, all the horse riding school, all the noise, the endless drone of cars all night from 4:30 in the morning, all through the night, making hell to provide houses for about 18 people or 100, even if it's 100, That is when you need to raise distinct points in objections, because it's you versus the applicant in front of the councillors making the decision, not when in the rule of judgment, when it's by judgment of the peers, by rule of law, or by the opinion of the peers, whether they like it or not, which is tick the box, right? Doesn't matter what points they are. That is when you're collecting signatures on the petition. Do you want the council to sell this land off to private developers? Yes or no? By lawful judgment of peers. Tick the box, right? 150 people. right? How many houses is it going to provide? 100. Well, even if they sell the houses to 100 people, those people will be outvoted anyway, you know? And then, so we're being gypped off. No one should need to collect more than 150 signatures. And if you want to go out of your way to collect the 800, the 5% or whatever, then by all means, that should do it. But if you get any over that, why, when you've exceeded 5% of the electorate, then the council should be paying for it, not you. You know, you've achieved that 5%, so you've done what is required, and then the council have to go and ask everyone's opinion on it. And I don't mean, you know, like, you know, giving it, I'm talking ticking a box. You actually say it. Not just the in favour votes, not just like put an objection in. We're talking about it means they have to vote in favour or against. Because if you put a, you know, it's not just, there's, put an objection in for an application. No, we're talking about actually the compulsory being sent. You've made it compulsory to actually go seek out their opinions and make sure that every single door has got it through the letterbox. That is how it is supposed to work, but it doesn't, because I know people who have been getting 800 signatures and they didn't happen to have Bernard McGuinn on their side, and they've still, all these places in Marsden and Meltham, when all the people are frantically panicking, they're actually distressed. They're actually going on these Facebook groups and they're distressed. They're actually panicking, and they are, they are distressed about, the impending doom, and the horses' fields and the paddocks and everything that are under threat. And those people have got community groups, Facebook groups, and they've got hundreds of people supporting it. And the council's just kicking it under the table, or shaving the minutes off the meetings. And that is where we're getting gypped off by Keir Starmer and by the corporate business objectives. Oh, it's Builder's Buddy wants to give his Builder's Buddy a job so he can go build more houses with his hard hat because he's mates with the chief executive on the council's pals. Darren Smith Builder needs to get a trophy on his table. The executives nudge of the councillors. This has got to stop. It's got to stop, because it's the same corrupt process what is going on with those fines being put through the councils, like what Verb's Channel Evidence gave, when it's not possible for them to do it because there's no time. It's actually a perversion of justice that they're doing, they're doing bulk fines and so forth. They're processing bulk fines that can't actually possibly be given due procedure or process. If people turned up, it won't be possible for them to do it. And I don't think the council actually, I don't think objections are being validated on the point of, we just don't want it, when it should be. No one should need to collect 4,000 signatures for any planning application objection, and no one should even need to collect 800, because once it gets to 800, then the council are meant to initiate a poll on it, really, or you can ask for one. It's not being used, and I know why it's not being used. It exists. Why hasn't it been used more? Because we get to decide, and we get to vote in favour and against, and they don't get to argue it and debate it out as if it's a legal case with applicant versus objector, one objector, and he's having to get his environmental paraphernalia out on the table with his lawyer, right? When you start getting 150 people, then you are the council are invalidating those objections, and they don't need any legal argument or technical point at all whatsoever. All they have to say is, we don't want it. It's a mess. why the council would want to start selling stuff off anyway, you know. It's almost like throwing, if it's like breeding mice, isn't it? No one really wants there to be more houses piled up and built everywhere if they live in a countryside area. You know, they want places to, they do want places to live, but the majority of people live with their parents, and there are houses becoming available all the time anyway, or people might meet someone. Not all people marry or meet someone for their own area. They move away, or, Cleckheaton or Brighouse or Halifax or whatever. So there's no one is actually, the only people who are pushing all these developments and houses is the people who've got the money who can afford to do it. And a lot of those planning and building developments there's a lot of planning, corruption and cheating going on with the rules, and building things bigger than they should be and not sticking to the rules and so forth at the moment. And if all those cases got fair judgment in courts, half of those would be demolished and put back as they were. Like that crooked pub in Birmingham that got demolished.